This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today it is Wednesday. It's October 2nd, 2024. A lot to cover today. First of all, God's Five Stones, the foundation. That's G-O-D, no apostrophe, S, God's. You spell out five, F-I-V-E, and stones are plural, S-T-O-N-E-S, God's Five Stones. We have the report. I'm going to announce it today that Battleground State, Wisconsin, has an algorithm in their voter roll, and this is going to be a major story because now we've got I've got Andrew Paquette's paper where it's going up on God's Five Stones today. I'm going to I've written a Substack on it. It'll also be on my Substack. And by the way, my Substack is Jerome Corsi PhD .substack.com, and you can find me on X at Corsi Jerome 1. The algorithm these algorithms are I'm finding them increasingly in the state databases, and they're very frightening because they hide clone votes, which are these duplicate votes for multiple registrations, which are intrinsically illegal. But there's probably 800,000, probably 400,000 people cloned in Wisconsin, which means that they're available to do multiple votes. And this is a major story, and we're going to blast it all over. And we found them in Wisconsin. We can go on to find them in Pennsylvania. We can find them in Arizona. And I think we can get it so that we are positioned in this election to do challenges in each of these states immediately if they flip the election towards Kamala. After that debate last night, I think anybody who thinks Kamala's got a chance is crazy. This guy, Tim Walz, made a complete fool of himself. Check out God's Five Stones. We'll be posting this story on Delaware later today. Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about the debate. Chris has got some clips here of the debate. And if anybody watched it last night, the choice of Kamala Harris and this guy Walz are the worst candidates I've seen since George Wallace, 1968, put Curtis LeMay to be his running mate. Curtis LeMay wanted to bomb everybody in World War II. He did the fire bombing in Germany, learned how to bomb cities to take all the oxygen out of the cities. People died of asphyxiation. They firebombed Japan. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he wanted to go to nuclear war with the Soviet Union. And of course, Jack Kennedy thought that was insanity. So let's go to some of the clips. Chris, you got some clips? Let's see what you've got posted on some of these clips. I think they should be really entertaining.
Well, we have some interesting clips. Let's go to some of the, let's see. Walz is kind of a little, first off, Walz was like a deer in the headlights for most of this, as a matter of fact. And he did not do much. He was put in a tough position to defend the Barris administration. That's what I call it now. Biden-Harris administration is the Barris administration.
All right.
Yeah. And Vance does bring that up. But here's, actually, let's go to that one. We're going to go to that particular clip where Vance challenges Walz as far as what he has to defend.
Honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again.
Now look at the face. Look at Ted Walz's face.
Yeah, I mean,
Tim Walz's face.
He's confused. He's not that bright. And he seems to be having cognitive problems himself. I mean, he can't quite get it straight. And some of his answers last night were just completely foolish.
It was funny because I was prepping for another program I did with Tony Schaefer, and he said that that the man Walz looked like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, deer in the headlight. That's a deer in the headlights look.
Newsweek
right
even said that later on in an article this morning. They labeled Walz a deer in the headlights.
Well, the deer in the headlight look is one of these blank stares.
Yes, that's this one.
That he's trying to figure out what's going on. and he knows he's missing some things. He can't quite. He's not quite. He doesn't know how to put it together quick enough, and there's nobody to help him. He's on the stage alone.
Well, he did have a list of bullet points and buzz terms that he kept looking down upon. If you watch the entire debate, he was looking. He looked confused in front of the camera, looked a little upset when Vance called him out, and he kept looking down at something that was on his podium. And I'm going to assume they were a list of buzzwords, terms, or little mnemonics that he had to so he could memorize things to say when it was his turn. This is where you heard him saying his new term in the beginning of the debate was fickle. He kept repeating over and over the word fickle when it came to Donald Trump. And later on, he at the end, he made sure he put the word joy in when it came to Kamala Harris. So I have a small list of his buzzwords as well. If you want to go through some of them, he said, "I'm a union guy" somewhere. He always used the term billionaires when it came to paying their fair share. Note that the old term was millionaires and billionaires, but most of these people are millionaires, so they don't use it. They say billionaires have to pay their fair share. Used opportunity economy as well. And then interestingly, he had to go with the Trump didn't pay his taxes for 15 years. That's a lie. The New York Times report, and this refers to the New York Times report in 2022 when Trump didn't pay taxes for 10 years in a span of 15, and with the context of taking several losses.
Yeah, well, I mean, all they can do is lie and make fools of themselves at this point. I mean, this is the worst two candidates I've ever seen. Play some more clips. Let's see some more of the knucklehead clip was one of my favorites.
Well, before knucklehead, let's go to this one, because this was something that was rather peculiar, and he actually said this with a straight face.
So I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time.
I've become friends with school shooters.
I'm pretty sure he didn't mean to say that, but this guy was so disheveled and confused and out of his element in a real serious debate that wound up being civil and not theater. And he was ill-prepared for this.
Eyes closed.
Yep.
Looks like an old man. This guy is the worst candidate you could have. And he's an embarrassment. The bottom line here is the Democrats think that they can steal this election and that they don't care who the candidate is. I think Obama would be happy doing a weekend with Bernie routine where he ran a dead guy.
They probably should have. They should have kept Biden on the ticket. This is a circus right now.
Get a dead guy and then AI cover up for him. I'm always talking through AI,
Yeah.
So over here, microphone AI and run a dead guy. And then Obama could run the country from the background.
That was the plan beforehand. Just got a little too embarrassing after a while. Yeah, you wanted the knucklehead clip, right?
Yeah, I want the knucklehead clip.
Well, he's a knucklehead, but I want to play it with the context because because I keep saying that Tim Walz went into this debate with the same idea that Kamala Harris did, that the moderators were going to be on his side. Everything was stacked for him and against the opponent. For the most part, yes, not to the degree that it was on ABC for Kamala Harris. There were reasons for that, but this one, Tim Walz looked visibly shocked when asked a question about one of his lies, not about his going overseas to fight. When he lied about that, of course, as you know. But this one about him being in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square riot situation.
Oh yes,
he lied about that. And this is where he said he was a knucklehead. So I want to play the whole context here if you're up for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square.
There's the face again.
Protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights.
Let's get there. That's the same thing Kamala Harris says in different words when she can't answer a question. I grew up in a middle class family.
Who cares where you grow up?
Out of that service, I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams. We
I
would
wonder how
take
much China
dancers,
paid him to
and
do
we would go
that.
back and forth to China.
Yeah,
The issue
exactly.
for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community.
Okay. He went on and on and on to talk about this. I want to skip ahead because this is just too long and just too wordy at this point. Then he started talking about Trump and then got challenged about it. And I'm trying to find that. But then he says, then the moderators say, hey, you are a, but he wasn't answering the question.
Go ahead, play some more.
No, it's stuck here. Hold on a second. Oh, I hate when it does that. All right, so
Yeah,
let me skip ahead to the knucklehead while we get to that. If you want to talk while we're doing this, I'll get the knucklehead.
well,
I'll pull it up
I
here.
mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. He's talking about, his life as if he, this guy probably went to China, made a deal with China, got paid to bring people over to China, probably been working for China ever since. The guy is probably a millionaire now, and he's a complete fool when it comes to trying to handle. By the way, I thought O'Donnell last night, was terrible and jumping in every time she could to try to protect Walz, and actually turning off the microphone once on Vance, which I thought was, again, help Vance. These are the kinds of things that Vance looked good and Walz looked terrible. That's the bottom line. And the optics of this debate, the optics of these debates often determine a lot. This was not in Walz's favor. I think it's now they've got to be completely convinced that he was the worst candidate to appoint to this. So go ahead and play the clip.
Here he is.
And I'm a knucklehead at times.
And that's after O'Donnell even said, you didn't answer the question. And that's funny. No matter how stacked it was against Vance, he still was very surprised to get a real that token question about his one of his lies.
Yeah, well, this guy Walz, it was clearly the wrong pick.
Right.
Now, it's vice presidential pick and doesn't mean all that much, but it reinforces the same issues about Kamala. And I can't imagine anybody voting for these two. I mean, these two are the worst possible choices.
Now, you were talking about Nora O'Donnell and the other lady, Brennan. O'Donnell and Brennan's performance as moderators. They, by the way, did not like getting fact-checked by Vance.
No,
Let's
they
play
didn't.
that clip.
Yeah.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well,
Nora?
Margaret, but
Thank you.
Senator, we
Here it
have
comes.
so much to get to.
Margaret,
Thank you,
I think it's
Nora.
important
We're
because
gonna turn out of the
debate-
economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that
The
you guys weren't
economy,
going to
we're-
fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That
Thank
is
you,
the
Senator.
facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
Walz.
describing the
He's so
legal
angry.
process.
Those laws-
We
and
have
Kamala
so much
Harris
to get
opened up
to,
that
Senator.
pathway.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much-
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We
CBP
wanna have-
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
There you go. They were upset because they were wrong. And Vance corrected them about real immigration law. Walz got upset because, hey, I forgot about this. And then they had to cut the mics off.
Yeah, well, again, this was obvious media bias, and again, the media is disgracing itself. Of course, I don't know how it can get more disgrace than it already is. But again, this media now is, I think, out in the open, is completely biased against America and hating America, just like the left does. And I think America is getting sick and tired of it. Certainly I am. I've had it with these people. These people deserve to go to the Soviet Union and live back, and under communism. If they want to do that, go create their own communist state somewhere else, but not here. Let's cover a couple more things. There's a lot going on right today. The Middle East is going to heat up again. Israel yesterday was under attack by Iran. Iran sent a whole group of missiles into it. And those missiles now are, again, were blocked. Israel's going to do a massive retaliation on Iran. Israel's had it. I believe Iran probably now has a couple of nukes. Thank you, John Kerry, for sending all that money over to Iran. Thank you, Barack Obama, for easing up on Iran on the sanctions. Thank you for Joe Biden for making sure that Iran was comfortable and could get back into business with oil and all kinds of other things. And so therefore, Israel, I think, will have massive attacks. They'll take out Iran's oil fields. They'll take out Iran's nuclear sites. They'll take out a lot of Tehran. I think that Iran is now going to suffer one of the most horrific setbacks short of nuclear war. And Israel's acting as if Israel is and they are in an existential moment. What's at stake here is the survival of Israel. Israel realizes that these absolute maniac hate terrorist groups want to kill Jews for the simple reason that they're Jews. No other reason. People did nothing to be Jews. They were born Jews. And they're hated because of who they are. Now, this is insanity. Again, this is the kind of insanity that led to World War II. World War II, we had, 50, 60 million people killed over this nutcase Hitler, also hating Jews. So what we're going to do now, we're going to kill billions of people with nuclear war because people hate Jews. This is insanity. It needs to be stopped. This Jew hatred is one of the sicknesses of the human race that needs to be eradicated. And people who engage in Jew hatred are themselves dangerous. The world finally recognizes this. We'll be taking a step in an advancement of the species beyond this primitive state in which we currently exist. But the point is, Israel's going to have a massive attack, and it's imminent. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to start, but it's going to start. And this is going to send the world into, between this and what we've gone on with the stock market, with the stock strike, the docks are closed down on the East Coast. That's going to send, cost a couple $1 billion of economic damage a day. It's going to cause supply chain problems all across the board. And the idea is that Kamala is going to come in and solve the strike because a communist leader, the longshoreman, is going to want to support her presidency. I'm not sure that's going to happen. I'm not sure it's going to be that easy. The strike could go on for a while. And if it does, it's going to have economic consequences. Besides the fact that we've had massive damage throughout the country from this hurricane, and Kamala seems to be saying nothing, no help for these people. So we can spend billions of dollars on Ukraine fighting against Russia in order to have a nuclear war there, while Kamala Harris and Biden, of course, they'll probably send Biden off to Tennessee or to one of the flood areas and let him wander around. Maybe he'll let him wander around and make stupid statements that he can't figure out what he's talking about. I think Biden is probably into an advanced stage now of mental decline. My guess is that that's one of the main reasons he was removed. It was just too much of an embarrassment. And of course, you can't steal an election if the guy who's running is obviously this much in mental decline. So they'll send him off now. Kamala's not going to go into this area. And Kamala's going to pontificate somewhere else and have a few gin and tonics or whatever she drinks all day long and mumble a few more idiotic statements. This is the best the Democrats can offer. Okay, so what I'm saying is, when it comes to the election issues are these. Number one, we've got to make sure that we have God's Five Stones is going to set the basis for having enough challenges that we can go into whatever state we want to go into while the election's going on and file charges with the Board of Election and file charges in the courts. There's no need to wait. Once we see the steal happening, pounce on it. Announce it, get the lawyers out involved, and make complaints. Okay, it doesn't have to be lawsuits yet, just complaints. Okay, and file for get the courts ready to know that there's going to be challenges before certification, and litigate the idea that a state cannot rush to certification if there are legitimate challenges to voter fraud. But get those voter fraud charges on the table immediately. Okay, so I think there's really 2 points here. Number one is, yes, we got to have massive voting. So everybody get out and vote. Get your neighbors out to vote. Get out and vote. Because too big to rig is the number one theme. But I'm on another theme. I'm on a theme to saying the Democrats' theft is legion, and we know their techniques. So let's get their techniques known. Let's publicize their techniques. And I'm saying make their whole attempt to steal an election clear to the American people, that we see the signs. It's like a magician's trick. Magician's trick is interesting to watch as long as you don't know the secret to it, the misdirection, the fact that the magician's going to misdirect your attention, so how the trick is really done you don't perceive. Once you see the misdirection and perceive how the trick is done, the magic trick isn't interesting anymore. It's just a sleight of hand. And you can see the skill of the magician, but you know it wasn't magic. It was just a psychological trick. Okay, so once that's clear, I'm saying we got to make this too clear to queer. I don't want them queering this election with LGBT, mentalities where they think they can cheat and steal and do anything they want to do, make up their own moral laws. That's where the Democrats are. We don't need them in this country. We don't need their satanic enjoyment of lying. I've raised the question of whether or not the intelligence agencies, NSA, the CIA, are running our elections. I think that's what these algorithms show. They're hidden codes in the database of the state election boards that shouldn't be there. And these codes, I think, are extremely damaging. What we find here is that the situation is structured such that the Democrats are going to try to cheat. They're going to try to cheat in massive ways. We got to be out there. I want the poll watchers to demand the right to take some of the mail-in ballots and go out in the field and find out if those people exist. Okay, so then if you'll take a look at what's on right now on God's Five Stones, I've got an essay. Go to the top there, the very top, and that you'll see if you can make that bigger. Go down even bigger. I'm saying too big to rig, too clear to queer is the winning strategy to stop the Democrats from stealing the 2024 election. And the strategy has to do with making clear that they're cheating, how they want to cheat. Let's get their tactics out in the open so you can see them happening. Let's get legal challenges ready to go. Any state that's got an algorithm in it, that state database is inherently corrupt. It shouldn't be used to certify an election. Let's get in and challenge it. These states are filled with algorithms. We've now proven it in New York. We've proven it in Ohio. Got New Jersey ready to go. And we're going to do it with Wisconsin today. We're going to keep going on this until Election Day. So you're going to have probably 20-25 states with which we are showing you massive problems in the database. This whole thing, too clear to queer. They're not going to be able to cheat and steal, lie. If you've got a guy like Walz out there who's calling himself a knucklehead, what do you want, the knucklehead presidency? Kamala? I mean, they're lying about everything. They lied about Haitian. They lied about the Haitians in Springfield. They lied about these are legally here, under a law which makes it possible to be illegal if you're here. All you have to do is, apply, and you've got legal status because you applied for asylum. Well, again, the deception is massive. Now, when you've got Israel, who's going to take out Iran, and I think the life insurance policies on the Ayatollahs, and in Iran are probably, I don't think there'd be any new life insurance written on those Ayatollahs in the next 48 hours. targeting that was going on by Israel, if we take a look at it, blowing up the cell phones, blowing up the pagers, the technology that Israel's got is massive. We used to worry about what it was going to take for an airstrike because of the distance between Israel and Iran. I'm sure Israel's got its airplanes now modified so they can fly that without refueling, or they can be refueled and en route. But the point is, I don't think Israel needs to have an airstrike with pilots. I think Israel can now do this entirely with missiles and drones. And I would recommend that people in Iran understand that they're going to be under a massive, massive attack. Certainly, the word that I think I've been studying this. I wrote my first book on atomic Iran in 2006. So I've been at this now for 18 years, trying to warn people this war is coming. And Trump is right that we are close to a global catastrophe after Iran missiles strike Israel. It's World War III. We're already in World War III. We don't recognize it yet. I'm sure that World War II, again, was not recognized for the first few months, even after Hitler invaded Poland. There's Atomic Iran. That book was 2006. And I was warning at that time about the danger of this Islamic terrorism. And, then I've written 3 books on this. And the one that it's a little book about why Israel can't wait. I wrote that book in 2009, and I thought then that Israel would be ready to strike Iran, but Israel put it off, knowing that Iran was not able to have a nuclear. That was the book there, Why Israel Can't Wait. It's a small book. I discussed in that book my conversation I had with Yalon, who was then Vice Prime Minister number 2 in the ruling hierarchy of Israel at that time. And I didn't know I was going to have a meeting with Yalon. It's very difficult to arrange. I was over in Israel at that time for about 3 weeks, maybe a month, meeting with different people that would meet with me. And remember, again, I was controversial because I had just written The Abomination. Point out that Obama, it was number 1 book, and it pointed out that Obama had been raised by Frank Marshall Davis, largely, who was a communist, out communist who had moved to Hawaii to start the communist revolution. They thought they could make Hawaii. And this book on Iran, which was written with Michael Evans, that was another book on Iran that I wrote. I've been warning people that Iran was going to be the fundamental danger we were going to be facing, and here it is. And when I had the meeting, I was at the King David Hotel, and they said, Dr. Corsi, get ready. You're going to meet with Yalon. I didn't know until I walked into his office that we would meet. He came around from his desk and embraced me. We talked for over an hour and a half. And I said, well, what are you going to do about Iran? He said, Dr. Corsi, you have no idea what our capabilities are. And he gave me some indications of what Israel's capabilities were. And he said, how difficult do you think it would be for us to put out all the lights in the Middle East except our own? And I said, okay, I've got that. I know your technological abilities are superior to ours. In fact, many of our jet fighters are equipped with electronics from Israel, not from the United States. So Israel's advanced. But I said to him, what are you going to do if you get to this point? You wait and you wait and you wait. And at the last point, you decide you can't wait any longer. And he said, Dr. Corsi, we will defend Israel regardless of the cost. Well, that's the point we're at today. Existentially, the Jews are not going to go through another submission to a Holocaust. This is a completely different attitude among the Jews today, and it had been slipping away as Israel got to be more and more complacent with peace. But that illusion is now crashed. After the October raid from Hamas and how horrific it was, the Jews know that the intent is still with the radical Islamic terrorists to kill Jews, period. Just kill Jews. And when you get down to that insanity, it becomes existential. If these people are going to kill you, you're backed into a corner, you're going to fight. Well, Israel may be, in some senses, backed into a corner, but not militarily. And Biden and Harris have been doing everything they can to back Israel down. It's not going to continue. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. In the end, God's going to win. God will win here too. We're going to go through some very, very difficult times. And I encourage you all to get on your knees in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14. Let's ask God's forgiveness for letting the country get to this point, killing so many babies after Roe v. Wade, chopping them to pieces in the womb, taking God out of our schools. We've got to get God back into the center stage. If we do that, God will hear our prayers and heal our land. It's Dr. Jerome Corsi. We'll be back tomorrow, thetruthcentral.com. Thank you for joining us. We're doing podcasts every weekday. God bless.